Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by James Moses Black of the upcoming S.O.Z. Soldados, Zombies, and it's very cool to have you here.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. I appreciate that rousing introduction.
Yes, I should have thought of a cool name for Nasty Neil. Treacherous Twister couldn't be here today, but I don't know. I don't know what goes with James. Jay is always is a hard one.
Usually my last name. And no, it's joking. James is a hard one, man. You can't call me Gerbil James. That wouldn't like too much.
It doesn't bring fear to the heart.
Yeah, it doesn't bring me to mind.
Right. So S.O.Z. Soldados, Zombies. That's going to be on Amazon Prime this week.
Yes, August 6th. We shot that show in Durango, Mexico, in the desert, which was kind of cool because there was no desert heat. Mm-hmm. It was a couple of days where it was hot, but it wasn't like desert heat, like Palm Springs heat.
Right.
But we shot it in Durango, and then we did a little bit of it in Mexico City. If I had to describe it, it is like an action. I always tell people it is not your typical zombie. The Walking Dead is like, no, these dudes and they can run after you and track you down. So it is sort of like Bad Boys, all versions, like Bad Boys 1, 2, 3, that mixed up with The Walking Dead. And that's the story, pretty much. It's just a lot of action. It's a lot of like somewhat horroring, but it's not really horror as you think of it, because these people aren't from the dead. They're actually experiments. So, but it's that type of thing. It's a lot of action, and there's some comedy in it, but it's not grotesque comedy,
Right.
It's just, you're dealing with a zombie and you want them to do something, that's got to be funny in itself. So, but it was a good time down there.
How did you get involved in that?
Well, I auditioned for it came about. And it was funny that the guy who picked me, his name was Nico Intel. And he said, man, I was not even thinking about, an African-American general or colonel in a sense. He said, but, when you came in and you killed it, it just changed my mind. And it was funny, man. When I was out in the waiting room, I was looking at the people in the waiting room. It was only like 3 of us, 4 of us, maybe. No one, not complexion or culture, looked like me. They didn't have what I had on. It was visually game over.
Right. I was going to say, if you show up and everyone looks completely different from you, do you think like, I don't have a shot at this, or do you think I'm going to stand out because I'm different than everyone else here?
Well, and again, I'm not saying that from a race perspective. I'm saying it from, do you know what you're auditioning for by what you have on?
Right. Okay.
Right? Yeah. So, and this is clothing. So when I saw him, I was thinking to myself, well, if you're not even going to attempt to dress, then this is game over. I got this, so.
That's interesting.
Game over.
Yeah. Did that, when you said the whoever set it up, like they didn't envision an African-American in that role, did it change your role at all, or is it still as?
No, my dad was in the military. So, but he wasn't a colonel. He was a senior chief petty officer on a ship. But his mentality was the same, It's like, this is your job. You control your job, and you control the people who work for you. Mm-hmm. And that's just how I did it. Yeah. It's just like any other. It could be just as Jack Nicholson was in A Few Good Men. It could be like that. It was like that in a sense. Any type of military movie, that I'm that dude. I'm just that dude, So,
would you say your dad influenced that in you?
I think he, when I looked at his career, he spent like 23 years in the military, man. So he was, he was entrenched, And the way he would talk to me sometimes is like, dude, I'm not like a soldier, bro. Like when he would have these conversations, I was like, I'm not a soldier, bro. I'm not a sailor, you know. But yeah, he probably influenced a little bit of that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much you know about the horror movies or anything, but original, what people really claim is the original, like modern zombie movie, Night of the Living Dead. The lead in it is African-American Dwayne Jones. And the story there is always, it wasn't written that way, but he happened to be the best actor. So he got the role.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, when you take Narcos, like people, you figure the mob, the Mexican cartel, the U.S. government trying to get someone, and you infuse those, but they have to be better than try to get this person. You know, that's what Soldados versus or Zombies is. It's just these organization that's U.S. government is trying to get to this person, but they discover a way to get to him that can't be stopped. But now it turns back on them. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Since it's on Amazon Prime,
right?
How is the rise of all the streaming websites? How's that affected your life as an actor?
There's more opportunities, definitely. There's a lot more opportunities. And this particular show is streaming in 204 countries. So that's a lot of people watching a show. But it also gives, rise to, you don't have to be on network TV anymore. You don't have to be on an ABC or an NBC. You could probably work, if you wanted to, you could probably work two shows a year and do a couple of movies. That's a lot of work, but you could probably do it just because the platform has changed a lot and there's a lot more opportunities. I mean, me as a writer, because I also write, it's kind of made me think about, I have a couple of TV shows that I've written, but it also makes me think about the movies that I've written and to make them short form or make them, turn them into TV series, because, I mean, look, Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney because, they gave her 20 million and they didn't tell her that was going to happen, so it got into her revenue. So I think that's where it's pretty much headed, man. It's just, if AMC makes a complete comeback, it'll be very small. And I think it's going to be independent as well. They won't be a large chain like they were before.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I know I'm not like everybody, but going to the theater, that's how I think it's the best way to watch a movie. But I've been going back to the theater. And, unfortunately, there's not too many people there besides me.
Right.
I don't know if they will come back in full force, like you said.
Yeah. I think it's another instance of what COVID has changed, the way COVID has made us adapt to a certain way of life. And now it's going to be the norm. The disease might go away or we might get it under control, but there's no such thing as yesterday anymore. It's all going to change.
When you were saying about series, several people, when I have them on, independent filmmakers, especially, they give that advice to start doing series because they said it amounts to more product for the streaming sites, and that's what they need is more stuff as opposed to a one feature. It's like 90 minutes. Right.
Yeah, the available content is there, right? What the problem with having too much content or the desire to have that content is that sometimes you run into not the same sort of talent because all the other talent is taken up. So you start grabbing other talent. Yeah. So you could run into, serious issues with, just talent on your show. The writing may be good, but if the talent's lousy, or the talent might be great and the writing's lousy, so it's a lot. It's a lot to take on, man, but I think that's the way it's going to happen.
Yeah. I also think there's you get to see more varied content because I think a lot of things when there was like 3 or 5 networks, they might not have greenlit something that's kind of out of the box, but now since there's more, like, I think you get more of a niche program that might not have flown before.
Yeah. I have a show I wrote called Segregation, and it's a modern day segregation. It's based on ideology, political ideology. And the country separates into East and West in terms of really geographically. government comes up with the strategy to, if you want to live in the West, you can live in the West. If you want to live in the East, these are two sides. It's sort of like East and West Berlin, back in the day. But the country comes up with it as a result of the insurrection that happened, just so happened. So I think it's pretty good. I mean, we've got another one that I think that should really get going here soon. It's kind of a comedy, but it deals with psychotherapy, where it's half live action and half animated. So in order, if you're dealing with marital problems and stuff like that, you go see these people who discovered this drug. But part of the treatment is psychotherapy, where you fall asleep at night and you have this interactive dream. It helps deal with your problems. So yeah.
The first one, would you say it's kind of like, what kind of genre would that fit in? Would it be sort of science fiction?
It's dystopian. It's dystopian. It is. It's that. It's a drama. It's a thriller and drama at the same time, because there is this a dystopian way of looking at it. Because yes, there's some similarities to what happened on January 6th, but the result of those is different. Mm-hmm. Everybody's not living among everybody that they choose to live among right now, right? Mm-hmm. So this takes apart the country and segregates it freely. Not you're not putting anyone into bonds or anything else. It's free segregation. So they line up the East and West and say, go where you want to go, and we'll help finance. We'll sell your house. We'll sell your house if somebody wants to come east. Somebody goes west. But the whole ideal behind it is that we're more divided than we think we are. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so. All I have to do is look on social media for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's really weird because honestly, I grew up on Cape Cod here, and so it's pretty liberal, and I always just assumed a lot of the way certain people thought. I thought it was more just like maybe someone up in the hills think this way, but the last few years I've noticed it's a lot more prevalent than I ever imagined it was.
Yeah, it's among us, man. It ain't no joke, man. I used to think that about California, but I was like, no, it's here. It's here. Division is definitely here.
So writing screenplays, was that something you've always been interested in, or is it something you just started to look into?
No, I think it turned into that. I think it turned more or less into a power grab for my own self, to get more sort of control and more, autonomy in my own life, to write and to create projects that I think that people would enjoy, because they're really based on life. I don't write a lot of, science fiction. As a matter of fact, I don't have any science fiction. And so that's what it really basically, I'm just looking at I was looking at my own personal life and saying, how do I move in certain ways? Which way do I want to move? And you have to sometimes create your own sort of road to get there.
So would you plan to also star in these?
Well, I wouldn't be the focal point, but I would try to listen. If they came at me and they said, "Hey, James, we'd like to get Segregation." I got another one called The Last War, which I think is really intriguing. But let's say they came to me and they said, "Hey, man, we want to buy The Last War, but you're not going to be the star." I'd be okay. I'd be like, okay, because it's a platform to dive into the rest of your catalog, right? Mm-hmm. You're still getting paid. It doesn't matter. Right. So if I'm not the star, maybe you can write me in. Maybe I can write myself in as a recurring or something like that. I don't have to be the star. Mm-hmm. No.
When you started to write, is it the same as when you started to act? Is it the same creative outlet, or is it different?
I think writers who are not actors, there's some great ones. There's some great writers out there. Aaron Sorkin, Soderbergh. There's some great writers out there. But sometimes I think with writers, you don't understand the common language versus the sort of written language that you discovered yourself. But there is a lot of subtle language that they miss, you know. And I try to write as if you and I were on a corner talking, whether you were the president or I was, you know, the ambassador, whatever that is, that common language that people use is where I think my writing is, like common language, you know. Yeah. And then if there's a dignitary in the thing, yeah, you elevate this sort of the vocabulary, but it's still common enough, you know. Than when they're not on a platform somewhere giving a speech to 100,000 people.
Right.
You know.
Earlier when you said your father was in the military, what did your family think of you wanting to pursue acting?
That's a good one, man. So my mother said, keep working. My dad was like, all right, you know. But my mother was like, yo, man, send me another check before you decide to go do something where you ain't gonna get another regular check, you know. But they were both supportive, man. I think they enjoy seeing the different things that I do. And I went to college, man. I went to Central State in Ohio, which is an HBCU. And I went to college thinking, you know, I was going to be a doctor, right? That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a doctor. And then as I got along, I started, you know, thinking about other people instead of myself. Like, whose dream is this? Whose dream to become a doctor is this? Is it mine or is it my family's? But as I got along in college, it wasn't my dream. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And then so I dove off into corporate America for a while. And I asked myself the same thing. Is this somebody else's dream or is this what I want to do? And it's when you work for someone, and again, we all have to work the way we want to work. But when you work for someone, which I discovered, you'll never get paid what you think you deserve. You never get paid that, because then we would all be super wealthy. But you never get paid what you think you deserve. So you have to go out. If you're going to work that hard for someone, work that hard for yourself. If you can. It's not always an easy thing, man. You know, what I do.
Was there a particular movie or TV show or anything that like really like you saw and you like, this is what I'd like to do?
No, there were people, not necessarily movies. But there were people like, you know, James Brown was probably one of the first people I ever watched. And he was just a performer, right? He was a performer. He was a serious performer. I think Robin Williams did it for me. I think Richard Pryor did it for me. I think Sidney Poitier definitely did it for me. The woman who has like 7 Oscars, she did it for me. I forgot her name. I should be ashamed that I forgot her name. Anyway, so there's been a string of people who've, you know, sort of, I looked at and said, man, I'd like to do that. I'd like to do that.
You mentioned a couple comedians there. So I know you do a lot of comedies. Do you have a preference in comedy or drama, or do you try differently?
I try to stay away from comedies, man. I mean, I could do them, but I try to stay. You know, Robert Guillaume, who used to be on a show called Soap, and I think is pretty widely known name. I had the chance to meet him, and one of the things he first said to me when we were talking, he said, "Hey, man, don't be a buffoon. Whatever you do, you could do comedy, but do smart comedy. Do comedy that's smart." And if you look at his track record of TV shows and things he did, he always did smart things. And so if it's smart, I'll do it. But if it's just me being stupid, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
What was the reasoning behind that? I assume because there was, you know, less representation of the time at the time on TV.
Yeah, if you look at most, and again, I'm not talking about anybody specifically, but if you look at most comedians, if you look at Tom Hanks got in, he did, what was Bachelor? Was it Bachelor Party? Bachelor something. He did Big, he did a couple of things. Yeah. Then he got out because that tunnel started narrowing to make him just be that. Will Smith, he did Fresh Prince. He did another comedy, but he always used his comedy in a sense that You know, he knew that if he kept just doing comedy, that's all they would look at him as.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's all they would look at him. And you know, it's just like I didn't want to get stuck in that tunnel,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that myopic tunnel that just had people looking at me like this without that broader picture.
Right.
And if you look at the body of my work, I mean, I've done a lot of different roles. I mean, like a lot of different roles. So that's helped me.
I always thought, as far as, to me, it always seems, it's not always this way, but that there are more comedians that become like good dramatic actors as opposed to people you think of as dramatic actors that can become funny comedians. Yeah.
I mean, when a really good dramatic actor does comedy, like Robert De Niro,
right.
It's funny because he doesn't lose that edge.
Right.
You know, he doesn't
and
lose that
part
edge.
of what makes it funny is just the idea of seeing Robert De Niro in a comedy, you know?
Yeah. But comedy is a straight up skill, man. And if you can develop it, there's timing that goes along with comedy. There's ensemble casts that go along with comedy. You know, comedy is hard. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. It is hard. But once you develop that skill, that improv skill and that timing skill, it's valuable when you do drama.
When right before that, you were saying that you know, you've done a lot of different roles. What do you look for in a role? Like, is there anything particular? You know, they're all different things, but what is it about those roles that, you know, interested you?
Well, I always tell people, like, yo, you get to do one that is the dumbest thing you'll never do again, and that for me was Joe Dirt 2. And so, I mean, you know, it's Joe Dirt 2.
Yeah, not even Joe Dirt 1, Joe Dirt 2.
Not even Joe Dirt 2. It got greenlit for a second one. But I think I look for things that make sense in terms of, do they affect lives? Is it possible? If I do comedy and it's okay comedy, I want to make sure I get to laugh. If I don't laugh, it's not going to be funny, right? Mm. If I don't see the funny in it, it's not going to be funny. So I look for things that people can relate to a lot of times. And so I try to make myself ever present in anything I do, right? Because, you know, I'm the treasure chest, right? I'm the things that you get all the toys and everything out of. It's not some invisible thing that they're asking you to create. It's you, you know? And so when I create, I make sure that there's a heavy dose of who I am in it. And also, I also think of things that are, what's the word for it? We have the propensity to do. So in acting, I don't like to kill or anything like that in movies, but I have the propensity to do anything imaginable mm-hmm. when I act, right? Because it's imaginable. It's imaginary. So I can get in it and I can live in it, give myself an extension. And I think that's so looking for those roles that I can extend out. I like that.
Interesting. I have to mention that you have Lansky coming out with Harvey Keitel. I'm a big Harvey mm-hmm. Keitel fan. And I'm also a big Mafia movie fan. I was going to say Mafia. Yeah. That sounds very strange. But what do you think it is about people and their fascination with the Mafia and organized crime?
Well, first, I when I got the part, I said, wait a minute. This is like 69, 68, 71. Man. I said, listen, ain't no black people in the mob, man. You know, ain't no black people in the mob. No, James, we don't want you to be in the mob. I was like, oh, okay. They said, we want you to be the head FBI director in Florida. And I said, listen, man, ain't no head black FBI director. You know, come on, man, with this stuff, man. And so I took it. But I think the fascination, what Meyer Lansky in particular was his ability to do numbers. Like he was a genius at numbers, mm-hmm. and he wanted to legitimize the mob's dealings because, you know, he'd have these numbers and he'd just bang them out. And this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. But I think half the fascination is like seeing a celebrity. You see a mobster, you really see a celebrity. Mm-hmm. You know, when John Gotti was rolling, all that family was rolling. When people still watch The Godfather, right? The Godfather is probably
One of my favorite movies. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's people still watch this because you really think this is the life, and it is a crazy life, but it's a celebrity life in a sense, you know? And I think that's the more they're not fascinated with, you know, and I think that with Frank Sinatra, he had sort of a close range to the mob, and there was that glamour part of it, right? Glamour part of it. Him dating, you know, different movie stars. I mean, I think it was just something that people glamorized, you know, and that was it.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back even with just kind of glorifying criminals, I think, in the United States for, you know, Billy the Kid and stuff. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, you think what's the biggest cartel dude we ever known? We still know his name. Like, what's his name from South America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know his name.
Yeah, we know his name. You know, he was like a Pablo Escobar.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. The dude was a celebrity. Right. This all powerful dude was a celebrity. So I think that's the fascination.
Yeah. It's kind of in a weird way the American dream, coming from maybe nothing and becoming something.
Yeah, rising up.
You know, nefarious means, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, S.O.Z. Soldados O Zombies is premiering this week on Amazon Prime, and the Harvey Keitel Lansky is coming out at some point.
It is out. It's actually one of my friends said it's on Amazon. That's coming out, and then there's a movie that's coming out in September. It's called Queenpins. Kristen Bell, Joel McKenna. My man Vince Vaughn, there's a bunch of people in it. It's a comedy about these women who came up with this scheme to take advantage of a loophole in the coupon business.
Interesting. That sounds actually very funny. Huh?
Yeah. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool. I'll check that out. I'll check all those out, and not just
check them out. Check them out.
If people would like to follow you, not to your home or anything, but online,
right.
Are you on social media?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at James Moses Black _. If you are 60 and over, I'm on Facebook. If you are 20 and under, I'm not on TikTok.
I joined TikTok because people were asking me to, but I delete off my phone very quickly because.
Yeah, man, I can't. I just don't have that many things I want you to know that I do. Right.
Yeah, so. I was just gonna start promote my interviews again, but I thought I already do this everywhere else. So.
Yeah. That's
I don't want to dance or anything on.
No. I'm cool, man. So.
Yeah. Very good. Well, this was very fun to talk with you.
All right, Neil. I appreciate the time, man. And let's do it again.
Sounds good.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, man. Yep. You too, man.
Bye.